the thinnest red box in the world.
I do. I need to fix that. I want to fix that.
I don't think you can.
By the way, have you noticed this? Look,
It's coming out.
She hates it. Absolutely hates it. Please do the honors. For the algorithm.
For the algorithm. For the YouTube algorithm.
I saw there was like an article on CineD or something about a program that did the syncing that is going under or stopping operation or something.
Oh, so this might actually be the only way to do it. Just manually do it from now on.
Or I don't know, maybe some other companies copied him straight out and he's just too small or something. I don't know.
I have no idea about that world. That's beyond my pay grade. So how's your back feeling?
It's feeling warm and it's like, oh, what happened? It's like, it's an anticipation.
I'm feeling like sore on one side. I can feel muscles were worked that haven't been worked forever. And I think tomorrow morning is going to be tough. And I think the next morning is going to be bad. It's going to be very bad.
I think that's a very good description. I feel also something, but I don't know what yet. I'm like, what's this going to feel like?
So what I laughed about, which we've already semi-joked about already, is that for anyone who doesn't know, E.G. and I are working out, for the 3 people who are listening to the podcast. And when we're working out, you are so kind, you're so gentle, you're so slow. You're like, no, Sean, relax. No, you don't have to do another one. You're always making it easy for me. And then today, John walks in, and John is 20 years old, or 21 now, but he's a young man. He's been working out intensely for maybe a year and a half. He's like a really good-looking, fit guy, and very ambitious. So he walked into the gym this morning, and I could just see E.G.'s eyes light up and go, okay, we've got competition now. So you went from like kind, nurturing mentor to crazy competitor. And I watched the transition happen in real time. It was so funny.
Well, there was a little bit of a transition in your head as well. You went from like squatting like 40, 50 kilos into squatting 110 kilos. You like straight up doubled in between. Doubled. And it was easy. If anyone had an easy squat today, like in terms of the form and like, it was you. Like your squat was so much less strained than ours. Like we were like trembling. You were like,
yeah, when you lift this tummy every day in, day out, squatting's the easy part. But I can feel like, whilst I think my core could hold that weight, there are little side muscles and little things and techniques that I have no idea about that would just snap, that would just break me just because my core would be able to do it. Muscles that I don't use, that don't exist, would just disintegrate. So I think I'm an idiot. Actually, I'm pretty sure I'm an idiot.
You mentioned something, I think it was Tuesday. Then you're like, oh, I think I can do this. You're doing the deadlift and you felt like there's no imbalance. You felt like, oh, I'm strong in this. Like this, I can do this.
I think so.
Right?
I think so. I felt, because when we've worked out, and then last year or 2 years ago, Jaden worked, we did like 2 or 3 sessions. We didn't do a lot. We were being so careful and doing a lightweight to try and focus on technique, which I think is absolutely the right thing to do. But I think part of focusing on technique is that you don't have that resistance. And I think I think I'm such a noob. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but this is my guess. The resistance actually helps your form because it gives you something to lift against.
Yeah.
But when you don't have that counter, you're sort of pretending like you're lifting. If that makes sense.
No, I understand what you mean, but I think there's also another factor, and that's just no matter how much you analyze it, no matter how much you're like concentrating on form, your body just needs time. It's like riding a bike. You can't read about it and then just do it. You just have to start doing it and figuring it out, and step by step, all of a sudden you're not thinking about the technique, you're just doing it.
Is that not how people get injured though?
If they go too fast. If they go too heavy, too fast.
So it's not bad technique. It's just
they
haven't given themselves time to build up.
All right, it can most definitely be bad technique, but like it's a good thing to focus on the technique. But aside from the technique, you just also need to get used to it. Your body needs to get used to it, and you need to kind of feel things out, not just analyze it, but also just feel it out.
I feel like I'm very in my mind. Like when I approach the bar, I'm thinking, okay, what do I do with my knees? Do I look up? Do I look down? Like little things. And then when I get focused on that thing with the chin, I forget about the foot. And so it's like I can focus on one thing at a time. And so I like what you're saying. It's just like get the feel of it, and like riding a bike, it becomes instinctual, and then you can do a trick because you're not worrying about what your feet are doing on the pedals. So I enjoyed it. I'm feeling tight though, but I enjoyed it this morning.
My legs are going to be complete garbage. And maybe not tomorrow, but like for sure the day after tomorrow.
Amazing.
I'm going to be rough. It's going to be feel rough.
What is also funny, is I wish John was here to discuss this, is that he set a PR for the deadlift.
Yeah.
And he was saying he hadn't lifted for 3 months or 4 months. He hadn't done deadlift for 4 months.
Yeah.
And then this morning he sets a PR. And then went and broke his own PR again with extra weight.
Yeah.
So that's very impressive. That's very, very
super impressive.
So I think it was the testosterone in the room.
Probably helped to get a little hyped up.
It's so funny. I love it, but it's so childish, but it's so amazing.
No, I don't think it's childish at all. I think it's great. I think it's just, that's just our deepest nature. That's all.
It's true. It's
all men
instinct.
have that, I think.
Absolutely. It's you. I think you can help it. Like you can quell that, but I don't think you want to. Like you want to express that fulfillment, that running, that climbing to the top of the mountain. I love it. So it was just nice to watch it externally, even though I was subject to it. It was nice watching it in you.
You were in
it.
it.
The contrast was so great from such a nice coach to competitor.
I think also like at this stage, like when we're just starting out, also for me, I've been really trying to hold my ego and everything back because I don't want to get injured. I want this to be sustainable. I want this to become a habit before I go over the line.
You forgot about all of that this morning.
All of that went out of the window.
I love it. I think it's great. What's interesting is also, like what you were saying to me on Tuesday when we worked out then, was you can do this. And I looked at it and thought, I can't do this. This is way too heavy. There's no way I can do this. But because you said you can do this, I was like, okay, well, you know what you're talking about. I have zero knowledge of this. And I understand that I'm an idiot. So when I approached the bar, I think we were doing squats, right?
Yes.
Or were we doing deadlifts?
No, deadlifts.
We were doing deadlifts.
Deadlifts.
When I approached the bar, I was like, well, EG says I can do it, so maybe I can. And I did it. And I was like, maybe I can do this.
It was easy.
And I didn't feel like I was at my extremity. I felt like I could go further.
Yeah.
So that was a huge shift for me mentally, which is a weird thing because I'm a 40-year-old man. You'd think you'd know your limits. You'd think, okay, I've been around long enough. I know what I can do and what I can't do. But clearly I don't. Clearly I can go much further. And so it was a really good lesson for me, both Tuesday and this morning, to go, like, we get very hippie-ish. We go, listen to our bodies. Well, maybe we shouldn't listen to our bodies. I think you said that to me on Tuesday. You shouldn't listen to your body all the time.
Not all the time. It's you. I think if you do training regularly, you will get a sense for your body's bullshit. It's like, you know what? You feel like not doing anything today? We're working. That's a standard. And it's just you can do so much more than you think. So much more. And you really saw that and felt that today.
I did.
And so sometimes like you're psyching yourself out just by thinking like, oh, that's way too much. This like if you don't know what's on the bar and if you just lift it and you don't think about it, that's sometimes good.
Well, honestly, I was sitting back watching you and John get heavier and heavier, and every time you lifted, I was like, I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous because you guys were straining, and I mean both of you are so strong. It's unbelievable how strong you are. And I was thinking that's impossible. Like what you're doing is inhuman. And then I'd step up to the bar and do it, and I was like, but these guys are like strong.
And I'm not saying it just to be nice or anything. Like it was the easiest for the three of us. It was the easiest for you. The lift was like very, very little straining.
I think you've been very nice.
No,
and
no, no.
too
I'm
generous.
being 100% honest. Like this is like you are naturally very strong at those two lifts.
Told you,
100%.
it's carrying around this guy. I genuinely, I think it does make a difference, right? I know people who are training sometimes will put a fat suit on or they put backpack on and go running with extra weight. I just never take my backpack off.
No, but I mean, there's also something to like maybe you have a high natural testosterone, and maybe that's part of the reason why you have a bigger appetite than me or something. I'm a smaller person, but like I can really feel it when I start lifting weights. My appetite goes like
Goes up.
up.
And it does increase your testosterone lifting, right?
I would imagine it does. Yeah.
I genuinely have zero idea of what my testosterone would be. I don't even know what would be normal. No idea.
I don't know either.
But it's fun. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I am. I hope you're enjoying it. It seemed
very
like you
much,
are.
very much.
I didn't think I would. I thought this is just, you're going to have to grind this out to get fit. And you're going to have to build strength. And this is a good thing for you. You're going to bear it. But actually, I've really enjoyed it. It's been fun.
I think this could almost be, I want this to be a lifestyle for me, and this could very well just become like something that you just do as a routine. It's like not something that you're doing to like achieve a goal. It's just something that we do at least twice a week.
Absolutely, I can see that, and I think anything that makes a lasting change has to be environmental. It can't just be your own willpower, and so by having that consistency and that discipline, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. So I love this morning. I think it's the best session of training that I've had in probably 10 years, probably ever. It's certainly with weights, but it was just really fun. It was a nice challenge. I felt like I was at my extremes, but I know I can shift those extremes.
And you know you have more in you. You know you didn't go all the way to the line.
No.
Like, you have more in you. You have way more in you.
No, you guys kept on pushing. I thought my brain wanted to. I really wanted to.
Yeah.
I thought, no, just don't be a complete idiot. Build up to it. So I didn't see it as an impossible line. I saw it as a line that I'm going to get to in the future. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I think like through this experience and through that, just what we're talking about, you see sometimes people think about athletes being arrogant or too egotistical or something. But I think especially with MMA and John Jones, people think some people don't like him at all. But I think like you have to have such undoubtable belief in yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you're trying something that no one has even attempted or reached before, you have to have some sort of a unfathomable belief in yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I think that just goes to show that like mindset is such a huge part of just what we were doing this morning.
Yeah, it's a huge limit. It's like those voices speak to you. I'm getting Goggins a little bit more. I know he's a meme a little bit because people think he's crazy, but I'm getting the ideas more when he shuts down those. He calls them the demons, doesn't he?
Right.
And he shuts down those voices, and I understand it because everything in me this morning was looking at you two, going, "These guys are crazy. They shouldn't be doing. No, they shouldn't be doing this." And let alone me. And then when I attempted, I was like, maybe we should be doing this. So it's fun, man. I really enjoyed it. So thank you, man. I think the little bit of training that we've done, because we haven't done years and years. It's been a couple of months, and on and off. It hasn't been consistent, and that's my fault.
No. I feel like we've been relatively consistent, like since we got back. I think so.
Yes, since we got back, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Although I was sick last week, but
that was one day.
was
you missed
one day.
one day.
Yeah,
That's nothing. That's fine.
But I feel like that's given me a good base to then just take the next step. So it's good. So I'm going to become a gym bro.
No, it feels really great to be back on it. I think also just that mentality of just going for things and just like jumping in before thinking or analyzing too much. This is going to help with that, at least for me.
We were saying earlier in the gym, just as John left, it was interesting him having him come in because he's a young man. We're not old men, but we're middle-aged men. I really hate saying that. That's like swearing. But it was interesting having him come in because there is a sort of suicidal stupidity, bravery concoction, and that it's good to be exposed to that. because I've made so many mistakes in my life that I'm cautious sometimes, which I wasn't when I was his age. I was also crazy and dumb and brave. I don't know what the difference in dumb and brave is. I don't know how to
I think
define
they're
those.
very related.
I think that, yeah, they're probably the same thing. But I think that's what would help keep us younger, is being exposed to that. And then from John's side or a young man's side, it's good to be exposed to wisdom. And you know what? You do have a limitation at some point. You don't know it yet. And so that concoction it was interesting as well. Because it just changed the dynamic this morning.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you can think about it also like for fighters. You see sometimes they peak like in their late 30s. They're not at their physical peak, for sure not. So that's efficiency and experience.
Yes.
That's meeting. You're still there. You're still physically there. And then like, your body starts to like not be able to compete at the highest level maybe.
Yeah.
At some point. But there's like a sweet spot where experience meets your body's still all there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you get those guys who are like 35, 40 years still playing the game. Like getting smashed in the face.
I mean, Glover Teixeira, he was like, how old was he when he won the title? 42 or something?
Yeah, that's old for a fighter.
I mean, top level. He was the champ. That was absolutely amazing.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. You see John Jones is fighting soon?
Yes, I think it's set in March, I believe.
It's like literally around the corner, maybe a month's time.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be interesting to see how he does, because he's a monster.
Yeah.
He is a monster.
I think he needs also like a challenge. He needs something that like kind of like goes into his ego and like, makes him work actually.
Right.
Because I think like famously he almost didn't train at all for the Gustafsson fight, and he just like still
he
was
beat
able to-
Cormier after a weekend of coke, coke and hookers.
absolutely insane. I mean, this guy is just something different.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
But like going up a weight class, going up against the top competition in that weight class, I mean,
How do you think he's going to do?
I think he's probably going to do really, really well.
You think he's going to win?
I think so. I would guess so. But who knows? He's been out of the game for how many years? When is this last fight? Maybe 3 years ago or something?
Yeah, at least.
So I wonder what he has been doing. I'm sure he has been training, but I wonder.
He's been lifting for sure.
Yeah, he's big.
He's
really big.
He's very big. I think he's going to kill, what's his name? Khan?
Cyril Gane.
Gane.
Yeah.
I think he's going to kill him.
He's super technical though, and he's quick for heavyweight. So he's a tough matchup. He really is a tough matchup for him.
But if you want a technical fighter, Jones is technical.
For sure.
So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I can't see him losing to this guy.
But I mean, I wonder what Gane's strategy is going to be. Maybe if Jones was going against a wrestler, someone that would be more like a physical, like exertion. Because when you're doing stand-up, maybe it's a little bit easier to control the pace. I don't know. And I don't know. Gane is not really a pressure fighter, I think. So maybe you're right. Maybe he's just going to get like completely just demolished by Jones. I don't know.
I mean, that's the wonderful thing about UFC. You get to watch whatever you think. It doesn't matter that we're going to watch it. But I think also psychologically, it's going to, because Jones he's probably the GOAT, right?
Yeah.
Him, GSP.
Yeah.
And then some of the lighter weight guys are amazing, but they just don't get the notoriety that GSP and Jones got.
I think just judging by his track record, he is the GOAT. But he's just done so many
Other things.
bad things, or people just don't like him for one reason or the other. I think that's one of the only reasons why he's not considered the GOAT. But I think actually, just based on what he's done, he really is.
He's really never lost.
No.
I know he had a DQ. He kicked someone in the face, or he elbowed them.
He elbowed
12. Yeah.
12 to 6. Yeah.
And so but I mean, if you're going to get a DQ. And then I think he lost to Cormier based on the fact he was juicing.
Right.
But he knocked him out.
He did.
So, yeah, it's going to be a very good fight.
Yeah.
Connor's coming back.
Yes. I wonder also how he's going to fare after being like he's lost 3 of his last 4. but I think he's there. He has unfathomable belief in himself, and that's a massive thing.
I don't know how he can, considering he's lost. I mean, he lost twice to Poirier. He lost to obviously Floyd Mayweather, and then Khabib. I mean,
he won Cerrone. That's the last fight he won.
Yeah, and Cerrone didn't want to be there.
No,
so that's going to be a good fight. And then they're putting. I didn't know this until recently. They're putting a Ultimate Fighter event around that as well, right?
Yes, they are. I think that's probably going to be like a really good thing for him because he likes the publicity and he likes to put pressure on people and like talk them down, and he loves that pressure part of the game. He's excellent at that.
He's brilliant.
But I think Chandler he's going to stand up to it. I think he's going to. He's maybe not as good with his words, and he's maybe not as good at getting like the public behind him. But he's no slouch. But he is a little hittable. He has been very hittable through his career. So and Conor has that like monster of a left. So
right.
I wonder. I would imagine this fight caters really well to Conor. I would imagine that he's going to win that fight.
Interesting. I hope he wins because I think he needs it for. If he loses a chance, I mean, he's losing to everyone then.
Right.
Like, and this should be a fight. I'm sure the UFC are setting him up for championship fights, so he needs to win this. Yeah. Be interesting, man. I'm really looking forward to it. It's nice. It's nice to have hype around those sort of fights because those are two huge fights.
Yeah, massive.
But I love the Islam versus Volkanovski fight. That was brilliant.
Amazing. I think I really wanted Volkanovski to win. I don't know. I just he's the underdog, and he's just such an amazing guy. He's achieved so much.
Yep.
I don't know why, but I wanted him to win. I felt like he won, but maybe I was a little bit biased.
I think he showed that Islam can be beaten.
Yeah.
And I think before that fight, no one thought he could be beaten.
No.
Like just general public. He showed him to be human.
There's some controversy surrounding that fight because according to some pre-fight images, it looked like there's like a little mark on Islam's vein. So there's like talk that he had like what's it called, an IV bag, that he had like a rough cut or something happened in the before the fight, and he got exemption to get a IV bag. But I don't know. Who knows? I mean, these guys sometimes they're fighting like really compromised and injured, and if something happens, the cut doesn't go right. Like you're just half of the person that you could have been in there, and Volkanovski did say he didn't feel like Islam was that strong, so maybe it was a fate, and maybe something happened. But he's a man; he doesn't make excuses. He isn't saying anything.
It's interesting you say that. I didn't know that there was that controversy because in the post-fight, Islam was saying there's many things that happen, and I thought, oh no, don't make excuses. And then he said, I'm not going to make excuses.
Right.
But he hinted something was going on.
Right.
So maybe Volkanovski was fighting half the man that Islam is, which is scary because he didn't, despite some people saying, he beat him, he didn't whip him. He didn't like go far beyond him.
No.
It was neck and neck.
Yeah. He did control the fight. Like, if I'm being like completely fair, Islam did control the majority of that fight. It just ended it looked really bad for him the way it ended.
Yeah.
But he did control most of that fight.
I think we both said 6th round, Volkanovski wins it.
Yeah, it looked like he was chipping at him.
Yeah.
I think also just mentally, if you're a little drained and your opponent is just like you have him in the worst position, and he's just like he's not like you're not chipping at his will at all, like nothing. That's disheartening to you if you're a little bit like I don't know how for long I can do this.
Volkanovski got up, man. He actually got up. Nobody gets up from those guys.
No, and he did not look freaked at all. He had his he had his back taken, and he had a body triangle on him, and he was not afraid at all. Like he was fine. He was just frustrated more than anything.
He was talking to him. Yeah. That's all you're going to do now, hold me down. I love it. That little sort of Jack Terrier type personality.
I think he's meant to maybe fight. Let's see. I think Mexican guy.
Yeah.
Yair Rodriguez. I think he's meant to face him next. And then maybe Henry Cejudo is coming back. He's back in the USADA pool.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That dude is a monster.
I mean, they call him the cringe king.
But he knows how to sell.
Some people don't like, his analysis and how he talks and stuff, but like his credentials are solid, rock solid.
Yeah. Yeah, you put money on him to beat everybody. Yeah. I mean, he beat Mighty Mouse.
Yeah.
He was unbeatable. He really was unbeatable.
Yeah.
Flying arm bars and all sorts. Yeah. And Cejudo didn't retire him, but he chased him out of the UFC, basically.
He did.
He was... Yeah. Okay, so I didn't know he was back in. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good.
I think he was a little bit like frustrated with his contract or something.
Okay.
And the UFC has now this strategy of like giving people like a 8 or 9 fight contract. And then like, your stock goes up in the meantime, but you're still stuck with that contract.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good business move.
I mean, fair on them. Like, you sign the contract. Maybe
Right.
you shouldn't sign that many fights in a row. I don't know. I think Paulo Costa is also very frustrated with his contract.
Okay.
Like he's right up there, like for the title contention.
Right.
But something happened. He was meant to face Australian guy, 185 middleweight former champ. Whittaker, exactly. But something happened there.
Contractually.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think Whittaker and Khamzat is next.
Ooh.
At 185.
Ooh.
That's going to be a fight. That's going to be a good fight. Good guy versus good guy versus bad guy.
What do you think happens there? Because, I mean, Whittaker's solid. Just all around, he's just such a superb fighter.
Yeah.
But Khamzat he's ridiculous.
He's been running through people. I think it's an intriguing fight. Like also like Gilbert Burns fight was like very competitive.
Yeah.
So I don't know I think it's going to be a super intriguing fight. I'm very keen to see that.
Because Whittaker seems like he can wrestle all day.
Yeah.
But he's also good striking.
Yeah.
When's that happening?
I think I don't think it's set in stone. I think they're talking about it. I think contracts may be about to get signed.
Okay.
It's let's see. I don't know exactly.
Oh, that'll
Might
be
be
a
this
great
summer.
fight.
Yeah.
That'll be a great fight. He's so exciting to watch as well.
Super.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a live UFC event?
I have unfortunately not. I really wanted to go to the one in Shenzhen, but I don't know. I just the timing wasn't right in terms of work or something. It didn't work out, but I really want to.
My brother-in-law went, to Shenzhen, and then I think they went to Philippines as well.
Oh wow!
If I'm not mistaken, I might have that. And he said watching it, I think he enjoyed it, but he seemed to intimate that watching it on TV is better because you don't have the cage in the way. You got better angles.
Right.
So I've never felt like I've lost out by not going to an event.
It's probably like music, going to concerts. It's like if you're just in there for the music, it's probably not as enjoyable as you would have just been able to enjoy it at home. But like to see the live thing, to see it in the flesh is, especially if it's something that you really admire and really into.
Yeah,
that's just a different thing.
Yeah, I'm an old man. I don't go out to. I don't think I've been to one comedy show, which was actually genuinely was brilliant. It was in Ireland.
Okay.
I don't know if you know Eddie Izzard.
Oh yeah, Eddie Izzard. Yeah.
So he's a very well-known comedian. Yeah. My housemates had tickets, and they were like, "Hey, Sean, do you want to come along?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." And it was brilliant. It was outstanding because there was a real dynamic between the comedians, and he was the headliner, and then the audience. And so there was interplay, and the Irish are incredibly funny people generally. So the exchanges were hilarious, sometimes better than the comedy itself, like the actual sets. And then I went to a few like gigs in pubs, but I've never been to like a proper concert. I always feel the idea of it makes me feel claustrophobic. I'm trapped. Security guards are taking details, and I just don't like the idea of a bouncer. And then I'm in this room or this bowl, and I'm subject to everyone else. I'm like, how do I get out of this?
It's a little bit of a chaos situation.
Yeah, and then people get trampled, and I know it's very rare, but I'm always like, I don't like that. Why would anyone volunteer themselves to be in that situation?
I remember going to concerts and my ear just being ringing for days.
Yeah.
Like, I'm such an idiot not bringing earplugs. But it's again like if it's a band or it's some people that you're really into watching
Right.
perform live, I think it's a really unique experience.
And it's the community of it, right? And the people are all loving the same thing together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand it. I'm just an old man. We were joking about it a little while ago with my mum, because when I moved to Ireland, it was the first time I moved out of home, and so I had no family or anything around me. And within months, I'd phoned home and said, Mum, Dad, this is going on, that's happening, this is how the job's going. And I had just discovered that I really enjoyed going to the cinema by myself. This is the days that I still went to watch movies. I haven't watched movies forever. But I really, because you go with friends and then you have to choose the movie together. And maybe it's not the movie you want to watch. And then you have to choose the seats that they like. And then you have to wait for this guy to come out of the bathroom. And this one's got a problem with the girlfriend and on the phone. And it's like such an issue.
It just drains it and just takes away. It's so much work to get
Yeah.
there. It just drains the whole thing.
So you sit down on the seat and you're already like exasperated, and then you've got to watch through 15 minutes of adverts or whatever they. And so by accident one day I went to the cinema by myself, and my friend didn't turn up, and so I just watched it by myself, and I loved it. I didn't have to discuss it afterwards. It was so good. So I phoned home and said, "Hey, this is going on, that's going on." I said, "I went to the cinema by myself and I loved it." And I just found out the other day, this is 10, 15 years ago. My mum cried afterwards, after the phone call, because she thought, "Oh, my little boy, he's lonely. He's got no one to go to the cinema with." And genuinely, I was overjoyed that I could go by myself. And to this day, I hate going to the cinema with other people. I mean, I do it, but it was just a funny perspective, because she's extroverted, so she loves people.
Right.
And I've only figured out recently, introverted, and I don't like people.
You cater very much to other people. You are more than willing to sacrifice your needs to meet the needs of others. I think that's your nature.
You're so kind, E.G.
No, I mean, that's true. It's
Yeah.
true, right?
I see it more like I'm just selfish and want to be by myself. You have a way of spinning it to make it look good. You should be a marketing.
No, but I connect with what you're saying.
Yes.
Because sometimes, like, you just need to do things that are just for you.
Yes.
Because a lot of the times you're just, like, in a situation. I think this is a common thing for introverts. You go into a situation and it saps you. You
Yes.
come home drained. Whereas an extrovert would be hyped. This is like an amazing thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they're pulling all of the energy out of everyone else in there and just
Yo.
feeding themselves off.
Vampires. At what age did you realize that you were introverted?
I don't know. I've just when the first time I heard the term, I think I've always been, but I don't know
Yeah.
when exactly I figured. I've always known that I'm not great in groups of people. I've always been kind of the trusted friend. Like
Right.
people would trust me with their secrets and they would confide in me. Like I've always been that person, always.
Right.
But like I've always been like accepted by all the group, but I'm never really active in the communication or active in kind of the group scene, if that makes sense.
It
Do you
does.
know what I mean?
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
exactly what you mean. Have you ever thought, "Oh, I'm weird," or "I'm different," or "I wish I wasn't"? Or have you just always accepted, this is what I am, and just deal with it?
I've been frustrated that I'm not great in the group dynamic.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm just over analyzing and just like not great at getting things
Is
out.
that personally, like you personally go, "I wish I could," or is it other people saying, "Oh, come on, E.G., why
No,
aren't you like
just,
this?"
That's
personal.
just me. How about you? Have you ever had like a moment where you're like, "Oh, I'm introverted," or you like figured out that you're not into like big crowded scenes of people, or was there like any moment that you discovered this?
I always thought an introvert was an emotionally weak person who had no social skills and was scared and timid and would rather be at home reading a book because they're scared of people. That was, I don't know, I can't say objectively I learned this from there or here, or that was just my impression. And it wasn't obvious, it was just nuanced and subtle in my mind. And so when people would say, "Are you an introvert or an extrovert?" I would say, "No, I'm an extrovert," because I'm not scared of people. But I had the definition all wrong. And so only recently, a couple of years ago, did I hear good definitions of what extroverted introverted is. Primarily being in group settings, you get fed. and you like that atmosphere, and introverts
Get drained.
get drained
Yeah.
heavily, quickly. And so only with that definition was like, oh, I really avoid big groups. Not because I can't handle them, because actually every now and again it's nice to be in a group and have a bit of fun and banter and joke, and it's nice to be part of a community. But then I need hours or days to recharge.
Right.
And so with that sort of new, or the proper way to look at it, not the new for me, I was like, oh, I'm introverted. So it's just an interesting dynamic, because other people look at that and they go, like I did, oh, that's weak. It's not weakness at all. It's just different.
It's just different. We just have different wiring. And
Yeah.
and the way that I had the same frustration at some point, I feel like, oh, my social status is like, lower than it like should be. That was my own perception.
Right.
But then I just thought to myself, you know what? You need people that listen. That's also a thing that, like, if everyone was there to talk and express, this would be chaos. You need also an audience. You need people to listen and take in the information too. Like,
So you thought you were lower on the pecking order because you weren't the loudest.
I just felt like I was just there and I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't contributing. I wasn't like adding anything into the situation.
Right.
Whereas like when I was one-on-one or in a small group, I was.
Interesting. Okay. And did you feel that negatively affected your self-worth? Did you value yourself less?
I would value myself less.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it was nothing external at all.
Yeah, it wasn't other people beating you up because you the quiet kid in the corner.
No.
Wow.
Because like I was friends with like all of them, like everyone in the group I was friends with, like the highest status and even the lowest too.
Right.
It was kind of embarrassing. It's to a point where I think I told you at some point, I would have friends that they were so contradicting that I would try to hide like the friendship with someone at the lowest tier, and I feel so embarrassed to that I did that. But I sensed that like, you know what, that's going to cause like a friction with this person, so I better just keep this on the low. It's so ridiculous. It's so silly.
Is that why you don't tell your other friends that you're friends with me?
No, that's why I have this podcast.
You just let them down gently. Isn't that funny? There are. I remember also at school, we lived in a little country bumpkin town, and I remember going to school in England when we moved there, and the first time I'd experienced cliques. So you had the sports clique and the clever kids and the cool kids and the drug kids, and you got all these different groups. And I remember, because I had no social construct of what that was, that I made friends with everybody. And so I'd play with sport, but then the drug kids were like trying to hook me into drugs. I never got hooked, but then the clever kids would help me with my homework. And the cool kids were like, who's this weird South African kid? And so I was a point of interest. I didn't realize this was all going on. This is all post sort of processing. But because I didn't understand the game, I traipsed all over the boundaries, and it's just worked out magically anyway. But I learned later on, as I learned what the constructs in the UK were and how certain people reacted to others, I learned what the lines were and it wasn't so stupid. But I still made an effort to try and break those lines when I could, because I was like, well, I already broke them. So I can talk to you and you at the same time. It's fine.
Right.
But people become very cliquey, and this is who I hang out with. It's just a natural thing. Doesn't matter what culture you're from.
I think it's just hardwired. We're like, we are attracted to people who are like-minded, and we kind of, I think it's also like a safety thing.
Right.
Like, you want to categorize someone, like you want to understand this unknown entity. So someone that you don't really know, you just go by their clothes or go by their mannerisms, by their culture, where they're from or something.
Yep.
And you just decide, oh, this is that kind of person. Because you need a shortcut. You need to quickly understand and try to put this person, I understand roughly most of this person just by these shortcuts, just
Right.
by those 3-4 elements.
But people also volunteer themselves into that by wearing the clothes, or I show you that I'm a goth because I put the makeup on, or I show you that I like this. So it's not just an outside thing, it's also an internal thing. I want to represent to the world that I'm part of this group.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes we're so weird as species. Like sometimes you want to be the most thing, you want to be something the most that you're not. So you
Wow.
like put on all the signals into, and you put all your stock, and you really want to be this thing because you haven't been it. Like, it's you've seen this, right? You've seen this pattern with people. Like if you weren't the cool kid when you were in your teens, then like, all of your life and all of your time goes into being cool to all the like and everything after that in uni and the workplace. You just like that consumes you, right? Because you really want to be it so bad. It marked you so much.
Yeah, that's right. And it's funny, the group can smell that out.
Yeah.
I remember in certain settings in the UK, in university, like I was doing maths at university, very geeky.
I thought for a second I was doing math.
Math, no, I was doing maths and math.
Yeah.
And because we were all extremely geeky, anyone who's doing anything with maths,
Smart.
it's just smart. Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. And but I wasn't. I was the dumb smart kid. I was certainly the bottom echelon of that
Didn't
group of
realize
people.
that was a category.
Yeah. I was clever enough to get into the group, but I was the stupid one of the group. And some people would try and act cool, and like everyone's a geek. You're doing maths, you're studying, it's just crazy. And then someone would try and act cool, and the whole group would reject them because they're like, "This is not the cool group. This is the clever group." And I, like objectively, I just watch things play out and think this is so funny because all other groups would reject this whole group, this bunch of geeks that I'm part of. And so the one cool kid would then just get thrown, like rejected. So funny. Human dynamics. So yesterday was Sammy's birthday, and you very, very kindly offered to take some photos of Sammy,
I'm happy to join you guys.
and you got to witness firsthand the little terrorist. What did you make of his interactions with other people?
No, I mean, I thought I could see a lot of myself in there. I mean, I think this is like a common thing. Like, you start out by everything is about you. You're trying to maximize your experience, and you're like in everything. There's no limits, right? So that's how you start out. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing because he's naturally not timid.
True.
He's
true.
confident.
It's really true.
And he's going after what he wants.
You're so polite.
No, it's true. Because I was like very demanding. I'm the youngest, like way youngest out of three
Right.
brothers. So I could see a lot of that in myself.
Really?
Like I was like that too.
At one point, he stood in front of the little kid on the scooter. And was holding the bars. Mine. I think he was shouting mine, or give me a go. And the other kid, who's probably 6 or 7, so he's double his age,
Yeah.
was going, no, and didn't know what to do with Sammy stealing his
He
scooter.
made like some sort of a pause sound, like, what to do? And he was looking at us, and he was looking at the adult that was with him, whoever that was. And we're like, I don't know what to do. This is new. Like, what's happening? And he ended up helping Sammy.
That's right. Yeah, Sammy bullied him off his own scooter.
Yeah.
And then made him carry him around on the scooter. Our little psychopath. So we were joking afterwards, we need people in society like that because they could be the top of the hierarchy, make everyone slave labor.
Without conscious, like being able to sleep and function.
Yeah, you owe this to me. It was very funny. It was very, very funny. It's interesting watching kids because it's so unfiltered. Like we can veil our motives and our intentions and our insecurities pretty well because we've been shaped by society. There's no veil there. It's just raw. This is what I want, and you're going to give it to me.
Right.
And then the pushback is, no, I'm not going to give it to you. I don't want that. And it's just raw
Right.
clashing the whole time. It's unshaped completely.
But it's kind of like some of that is happening for us, but like very like under the surface and subtly, right?
Yes, yeah, we learn to deliver it in a certain way.
Right.
I think it really would be good if you could maybe, and I don't mean to be rude, but
Right.
they're just like, give me.
Right. Yeah. And then you get rejected or something happens, and then you cry and it feels horrible.
Yeah.
And then you try to avoid that from happening again because it feels so bad.
Yeah,
And so it comes to some point where like some people when they're older, like they cannot handle rejection because maybe they haven't encountered it enough, or maybe they had such a traumatic or bad experience with it. I don't know what it is. I've noticed something, and I think Steve-O had like a really good phrase around this, or like, so he had parents that were super focused on work and being professionals. So he was kind of neglected. He didn't get that much attention as a kid. So he became a complete attention whore in his adult years. So what happens when you shower your kid with attention when you're young? Like then you don't need that much attention when you're you don't crave it that much because you have had it in abundance. So I wonder what kind of different imprints you can put into your kid and at a young age, because we kind of, our wiring can be set quite early on, right? We become a little bit like what we are early on. And how much of that is marked by our environment and how much is that just straight out of the box? I mean, the three of you brothers, you're quite different. Yet you came from the same home, same parents, same everything.
That's right. Yeah, there were some slight contextual changes, but pretty much we from the same batch, and we're all very different. Yeah, I think Jordan Peterson says, by the age of 4, your kids already learnt to be socialized. That pathway is set. I don't know if it's irreversible, but it's set.
Right.
And yeah, it's a strange thing to try and as a parent, to try and navigate, like, how much influence should I exert? When should I pull on the leash? When should I just let things go? So you notice yesterday, I just sat back. I just tried to stay away because I was trying to observe what's Sammy like interacting, what's Bonnie like interacting with Sammy interacting, because an overbearing mother can set, like Steve-O, having no influence from parents or very little. The converse can be true. Could just be a helicopter mom. I don't know if you noticed there was a lovely kid and a great mom playing with this kid, but maybe he was 8, and it looked like they were best friends. And my mind was, part of me was like, oh, isn't that lovely? And another part of me was like, I hope he's got other friends.
Because it's not a balanced relationship. It's not like grounded.
Yeah. He needs to be pushed over. And he needs to see the consequences of pushing another kid over. And if mom's always on his shoulder, he'll never push anyone over. And he'll never be pushed over.
Right.
And so when that kid was getting his bike stolen from Sammy, you heard me, I said, like, punch him.
Right.
Because I want him, because that kid had no backbone. He didn't know what to do. But like, Sammy needs to experience the real world.
Right.
And of course, if there was anything that was mortally dangerous,
right,
we would step in. I mean, you saw how Bonnie chased Sammy around the whole time. We'd care for him deeply, right, probably too much, right, in a detrimental way. Like, that's something we need to fine tune.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't have kids, so I have no idea. But like, that's an observation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think my observations have changed that much pre-kids to post-kids. I think that's a valid dial. Where that dial sits, I don't know, but I know it's something that needs to be observed and set in place.
It makes complete sense because, like, if you're in an area where they're like, you're not sure what to do, and the situation is a little bit new to you, like, if you're used to having a parent step in every time, then you depend on that instead of trying to figure it out or having some sort of an experience dealing with a different situation that might have some related experiences for you to pull from.
Did your folks do that with you? Were they overbearing? Did they let things play out? Did they ever step in?
I feel like I had like a long leash. I got a key and I would go to school myself. I would come back from school myself.
Amazing.
I would go with my friend to school. We would go together. I guess it's just now that's not really a thing. Even in Iceland, it's just
really?
But I got a lot of time for myself, and I had to just also to figure out how to spend my time. Like, should I call a friend? Should I go to the swimming pool? Should I do this? Should I do that? I would figure that out myself instead of having like my time being occupied for me by all kinds of recreational things. So I got to choose if I wanted to stay in gymnastics or if I wanted to try judo or if I wanted to do this or that or the other. There was no pressure from my parents to stay in or do that or the other. I just kind of got to figure it out. I think there's good and bad to that. If my parents would have if my dad had like a sports background and he would like push me, like, no, you got to stick through it, stay in gymnastics, maybe I would have like become like really good at that or something. But when it started becoming really difficult at a young age, I opted out because I didn't enjoy it anymore. That's a good and a bad thing, right? I learned from that.
But you found routes in life that were difficult that you pushed through in.
Yeah.
So it's not like that ability to push through was lost because you quit gymnastics. You just found avenues that you preferred.
But I found out maybe later, like I pushed through later and by choice.
Okay.
Instead of having been pushed through, like, just told by a parent that was just like, this is how sports work. This is how you get good at something. It doesn't feel great, but you got to push through. So you got to decide, do you want to stick to this? Or you want to like throw it all away and do something else? That's fine. But just know that that's what's happening.
Where did you pick up that trait to push through?
I don't know. Just through. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Because you have that. Obviously, you have that now. Because
Yeah.
I'm sure there's many days that you don't want to push through and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me because I know, I mean, we all know personally people who've had parents where they were pushed and learning piano, and now they never touch the piano. Even though they got to grade 8 and they did their concert and all the rest, they'll never touch it again.
Right.
Because they were pushed.
Right.
And then I also know other kids, fat and lazy, like me.
You're so kind to yourself.
No, but like they don't produce anything in life. I've chosen the areas that I lose in, one of them being health, and I'm changing that track now. But I've pushed through it in a lot of things. But I know people who have never pushed through in anything, and they just think that life should give them the stuff, and that if it's ever difficult, they can just tune out.
Where do you think you got that from then? Like pushing through? Where do you think that if you could try to go as far back as possible?
My dad is an insane, crazy man when it comes to handyman stuff. And I remember clearly him taking a hammer and a nail. He was fixing something or making something, and he missed the nail and hit his own thumb. Now, most of us would go, and see to the thumb because it's bleeding and you need to bandage it up, all the rest. But I've seen my dad do this so many times. To this day, he will go, dun, 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 hit his thumb, and then go, and just keep on working. And he will bleed. He will almost pass out. He will make a big mess everywhere. It doesn't matter. He will just keep on pushing through.
You see it through. Just finish it.
Crazy and insane. Absolutely insane. Wow. And I don't know if that's an instinct he was taught in the army or just was born there. I don't know. But he is the most, and I mean this in a compliment, he is the most donkeyish man that I know. Like, would just keep on plowing. He would just keep on going, no matter what.
Just work through. No matter what it is, just work through it.
It's almost like the harder it is, the more he'll work through it. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
You grew up with an older version of Goggins. Just the Goggins of pain.
That's
and
right.
seeing things through.
That's right. It's insane. So it's probably his best trait and his worst trait. It's just the way that he is. And sometimes because you grow up, that's your dad. You think all dads are like that. So I thought that was just old school. But I know old school people who don't push through like my dad. So maybe it's an old school trait. I don't know. But maybe I picked it up with that. My mom's very creative, and so she'll try this thing and try that thing. But my dad is just a donkey. He just pushes.
Resilient.
Resilient, loyal, and sometimes just hard-headed.
No, that's a good thing. And I think, can you imagine, there are so many people that grow up without a role model.
Right.
Based on gender or a parent in general. Like some people are just absent. Or some people just, their relationship doesn't work out and you just have the one parent. Which way it goes. I think it's really important and I think it's really healthy for kids to have both role models, to see the both ends of the spectrum.
I think you hit it in one there, the role models. Hit it in one. And you need both.
Yeah.
You really do. Sammy would be at such a disadvantage if he just had me or he just had Bonnie.
Right.
He'd be at a huge, because we're so different that I would ruin him, I think. And I think Bonnie would ruin him. And so he needs both of those influences to have that male and female that there's just different components that you can't get from one person.
Right.
And even those two parents, you need environmental factors, you need teachers, and you need outside influences.
Yeah.
So I think you hit it in one, man. Yeah, you need those role models. And perhaps the model is more important than the method, because my parents or your parents may have chosen methodologies, or they just fell into methodologies, but you might have learned more from just watching them than the way that they treated you.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right.
So if your dad is dedicated and does what he said he's going to do, even if he lets you off, your model, what's set in your mind now is, oh, a good dad, a good man, he does what he said he's going to do.
Right.
So that's the bar.
Right.
That's what I'm going to aim for when I'm trying to be a good man.
Right. No, I think it's like I think there's like I haven't read this book, but like I keep hearing about it through different podcasts. I don't know what the book is, but like it's essentially about pattern recognition and how you can like, I think we're experts at that. And that's all you're doing as a kid. You're recognizing patterns all over. And once you have like a good kind of a baseline of pattern recognition of how things work and should not work, you can apply that net of patterns to all kinds of things.
That's right.
If you understand and master or do well in one environment, like if you do well in business, in one kind of business or one kind of genre or adventure, you can take, if it goes well, you can take the blueprint of that and apply it to a whole different situation.
Right.
It's not that different. You just got to figure out what point is where, and you just got to figure out the spectrum, what the situation is like. But like, if you're able to be successful, even in physicality, even if you're just, doing well and like, shedding weight or anything, you can use that blueprint. That's what I feel like I learned from the weightlifting. Just consistent work and just being over a long timeline, actively working on something, consistency and work just goes so far, so far. And being able to know that, like, and even if you start at something that's so daunting, you think you're never going to achieve it or it's going to be possible, just start chipping at it one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, and then you'll build it up. You build up momentum. I think that's a really important thing to have in life.
Wow. Yeah, if you don't have that. If you don't have that mindset, you'll never try anything because lots of things are tough.
Yeah.
But I really like that idea of applying those lessons from easier lessons. So learning how to lift a bar is actually, I mean, there are technical things, obviously, and I don't know all those technical things, but there's such an isolated action. There are a finite number of elements to it, and then it's just repetition. But applying those lessons, then more complex things like how to operate a camera, or how to build a business, or how to flirt and get a good mate. That's so much more complex.
Yeah.
But you can apply those simplistic, consistent lessons and learn how to break through those barriers that can then apply those other things. I love that. I'd love to know what the title of that book is.
Yeah, I need to find out myself.
Yeah.
I want to listen to the audiobook. I'm not going to read it. I don't read at all. I hate reading.
So you don't read much, eh?
No, that's a bad thing. I think really our maybe not our generation, but the younger generation, and I'm definitely like this way. Like I think reading is probably a really, really good development tool for your mind because it allows your imagination and your kind of structural thinking to meet. These two elements meeting in one.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Like if you read like an amazing book that you love, and then you watch the movie version of it, you're like, it's not as good.
No comparison.
So it's a really important thing to have that ability to fill in the blanks and build things in your mind based off of something that's really relatively linear, right?
Yeah.
Like reading a text.
I really wish I read more. There's been stages in my life where I've read quite frequently, and then there's stages I do nothing. But what I found recently in the last 2 years is just listening to audiobooks. I don't think it's as good as actually reading it. There's a part of your brain that's engaged with reading that you don't hit easily with other things. But even just listening to audiobooks has been great. So I've got the Audible subscription, and then I'll just I haven't got it into a disciplined way yet. But with the working out, and I'm going to be doing the cycling, I'm going to try and listen to audiobooks whilst I'm cycling and just get into that routine.
I think also like our attention spans are beginning to break down into such small bits.
What's that?
I don't think.
Can you put that in a 7-second TikTok for me?
Yeah, exactly. Distill. Like I was out in just 5 seconds. But can you imagine like the amount of attention and focus you have to read for a longer period of time? This has been completely broken down.
That's right.
Like, I even sense it in myself just through Instagram. Like, and I remember this so vividly from being in school. When I'm reading something I have no interest in, like all of a sudden, just like I'm reading like a few lines, and then all of a sudden I find myself thinking about something that I got an idea, and I'm just moving my eyes alongside the text, and I'm thinking something completely different. This would happen countless times for me.
Can you concentrate when you listen to audiobooks?
I think it's easy when I'm doing something mindless with my hands. If I'm doing the dishes and listening, if I'm doing something repetitive, like editing like a huge batch of images, then I kind of rest a little bit in it. I'm busy with something that doesn't require that much thinking. It just needs to get done. And then my mind kind of rests really well with the audiobook or whatever I'm listening to, or podcast even.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should like pick a book and then both listen to it and say, okay, within a certain time frame, let's listen to X book.
I like that. That's a great idea. Let's do that.
Because the times that I've done that on the family podcast that we were doing, which we haven't done anything for years, we did Beyond Order. Or what was it? It was 12 Rules for Life.
Right.
Order and Chaos by Jordan Peterson. And doing that together as a family, and I listened to that mostly. I read it later on, but that was really good because every week we had to listen to a chapter. And it just knowing that everyone else was also doing the same thing, it just encouraged me to go, okay, well, let me get it done. And then the discussion made the content go deeper because they would say things that I'd never thought about and vice versa. And it just added color to that chapter.
I think it's a great idea. Let's do that. Let's decide on
book
something.
review.
And it doesn't have to be that much. Just like you said, just one chapter.
Where's Walder? That's a good book. Or yeah,
Not sure how deep we can go into discussion with that.
He's trying to express the deepest part of his emotion that is hidden in the.
Or we'll just lie about how quickly we found him.
Oh man, I gotta. You and John, I have managed to avoid Instagram. I've just stayed off it. And then he sent me a message on Instagram Reels, and you sent me something, or there's something you posted, and so I had to go to Instagram to check. And so I checked your thing, or was looking at your thing. Then checked his message, and now I'm on Instagram. And so now I was scrolling through Instagram the other day, and some post came about what number's the wrong number, and it was like 529, 529, 529, and then there's 80 numbers on the photo, and one of them is wrong. I spent 5 minutes looking for 259 rather than 529. Like I'm hooked on Instagram now, and it's not even my fault. It's your fault.
It's made to be addictive.
It is terrible.
It really is. I find myself being sometimes like I've been scrolling. I was like, I'm so frustrated. Like, why am I doing this? This is getting me nowhere. This is giving me nothing. Why am I doing this?
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Facebook I was addicted to. And I just don't comment on anything. I don't like anything, but I still have a habit of opening up Facebook.
Right, yeah.
Terrible.
I try to stay away from it too. For me, I noticed it robbed me from direct contact with people. I could kind of surface level like a post or like comment on a post, and that would take the pressure off enough so I wouldn't have a call or a direct chat message or like directly interact with that person.
Good strategy. Introverted strategy.
No, but I miss having those like one-on-ones because that's like, I don't know, that's how I am. I really miss, and I've lost a lot of that. But I've really been building on that, trying to be in systematic contact with people over the last few years, especially like childhood friends from back home. Really trying to build that back up. And it's there. Like, even if I haven't talked to someone for 4 years, 4 years is forever. It's like we just pick up right where we left off. I think it's easier for men to do that.
I think so. My days as a woman, I have no idea. I was chatting. It's funny you say that. I was chatting to a friend, Zach, the other day, and we were actually talking about Chat GPT, which I wanted to talk to you about, but I think we're running out of time. But and we were just talking technical, like how do we get this and blah, blah, blah. And then, like after an hour, we started talking about family and what's happening with the kids, and what because it was like we were just back in our normal just run of things.
Right.
And then we did this sort of emotional catch up after the functional catch up. So it's very interesting how we can just slot into that. But IG and Facebook and all of those things, they don't it's not the same, man. And so I know what you mean. You tick that mental box, like, yeah, I said happy birthday on Facebook.
Right.
I liked your post, so I know your kids were born.
Right.
That's not the same as a phone call.
No.
It's not really the same.
But then at the same time, you kind of lose out on what's happening because there's like a lot of life events and things that happen and people post and you don't notice it because you're not there, or at least me.
Yeah.
And so I feel conflicted about it. There are people that I would like to be in touch with, but for whatever reason, it's just, I don't know, there's no opportunity or the time difference. There's something, but it's better to have like a little bit of contact or a little bit of like, a notch instead of nothing.
I think no contact's a great strategy. I got maybe a handful, maybe 3-4 friends, maybe 5 that I was staying in contact with, and then just often I'll think about people at school. I'll be like, I wonder how he's doing, and I just will not go beyond that because I'm like, I'll say hi, hope he's great, and then now I have to keep in contact. I'm so lazy.
No, but I mean it becomes overwhelming. There's like what is it called, like Dunbar number? That's like supposedly a number of people that you're able to have actively in your group. It's like a hunter-gatherer kind of a mechanism. I think the Dunbar number of people that you can know about or be in touch with is like around 150 people. Like
that's bigger than I thought.
We have thousands of friends on Facebook. How are we going to be able to actively maintain and stay in touch with all of them? It's impossible.
I have 12 friends on Facebook. What are you talking about? you have thousands?
No, but I mean,
no,
if you move cities, if you move schools, it's just like
I did that.
Piles.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, you go to primary school, there's 200 kids there. You go to secondary, and then there's no way you can keep in contact with that many people.
It just becomes overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
So how do we manage that? I don't know the answer, but I've really been thinking about that. What's the best way to try to find like a good balanced way to manage being in touch with the most closest people in your life?
We need a platform that can connect people from around the world, that you can put up a profile picture and then you can like other people's posts. And you can become friends. Like we could call it like a book of faces or something. I don't know. I think I've just got comfortable with the fact that in a certain moment in life, you're in a certain context and you do well by the people around you and your community. And then when you move on, because we both traveled, you move on. And I think to have that baggage, at least for me, if I go down that road, if I got to keep in contact with 150 people, I just there's no way that my personal makeup can handle that.
Right.
So I've just settled. I'm in contact with people that I'm in contact with, and whatever that is, it is that.
Right.
I'm not going to try and go beyond that. And then if I got a friend, if he pops into my brain, I'll say, "Hey man, how you doing?" Or I'll just call. But I won't try and manage it.
Right.
Because if I get into management mode, I get so detailed. I'll have a spreadsheet and a call time and and then I didn't get to that person today, and so I wake up the next morning thinking I've got to phone so and so.
Right.
And then it just becomes, for me, then it just becomes a mechanical thing.
Yeah.
And I just rather be lazy.
No, but I mean, also, like, how do you, like, prioritize one person over the other? I can't make that choice. I literally can't, because I value them equally.
Yeah.
And then when you have that on the scale of 100 people, a lot of people, it just becomes like you just end up doing nothing.
Yeah.
And it's a little sad. It really is. But then at the same time, like, you have friends that lived next door during one period of time, or you always go to the same school over a period of time.
Right.
So you pick up that kinship and friendship and connection during that, like, consistency of hanging out.
Yeah.
And then kind of life changes. You both move on. You move to other countries or other cities. Things change.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. It's just what I appreciate about Hong Kong is that people are a little bit more open-minded. I think it's easier to make new friends here compared to in other places.
Agreed.
Because there's this revolving door of people coming in and out all the time.
That's right.
Or it used to be. And that's not the case when you're like, everyone just lives in the same neighborhood or same city, and just the social net becomes just like a So it just becomes solid.
Yeah.
It becomes impenetrable, right? You just
Yeah.
you just fill up. You're filled up.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I remember coming into that situation as the foreigner in the UK, and it was all saturated. Everything's set. Everyone knows who they are, and then you come in and just mess it up by being the foreigner, and you're known as a South African. And I remember thinking, why doesn't this group speak to that group, and why don't they? And you would like him, but it's set, and it was so set that you would only walk home with a certain group of people.
Right.
Like even if you lived next door, that's my friend group. I was never clever enough to understand those boundaries, but I witnessed it happening over time. But yeah, man, I just think take the pressure off. Don't worry. You'll connect with people when it's organic and when it's natural.
Right.
That's what I think. I could be completely wrong.
No. But I think you're right. But
Yeah.
then at the same time, like, this grouping, this is, if you move that up to a more complicated level, this is also happening in international countries and governmental relationships.
That's right.
I mean, was it in 1972 that Richard Nixon visited Mao Zedong?
Wow.
He opened, he opened up the dialogue and
know
extended
that.
the hand. I think it was in 1972.
Really?
Can you imagine? That was like a little bit of a stretch to kind of like, it would have been easier to do nothing, right?
I think so, yeah.
I was watching like another documentary, like a short video about analyzing that, a debate between U.S. and China. I know we decided not to talk about politics, so let's not talk about
this
politics.
is all politics.
This is like no, but it's a modern topic that they went all the way back to.
Wow.
It's about like the disagreement about Taiwan between China and the U.S. And it was a revelation for me. I understood both sides a little bit better.
Wow.
From that.
I'd love to see that. I know so little about that.
Me too. I realized.
Wow. So Nixon actually came out here.
I believe so. 1972.
no idea.
Yeah. Because I mean, China was kind of like closed off, right? It was not an open country, right?
Right.
You couldn't get a visa or travel to China until what, 1980, early 80s, right, or something like that.
Yeah.
It didn't really open up until that point.
I had a friend in late 1990s, and he went and saw the Great Wall, and we were all like, "That's amazing! How did you get in?" It was like, yeah, it was very closed.
Right.
Interesting. Oh, I'd love to see that because I have no context. I don't know how that all works.
I'll find the link. It was like I really enjoyed that. That was a revelation for me at the very least. Yeah.
E.G., that's good.
How long have we been going? An hour. Okay. This.
It was
That's good.
spot on. Awesome.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much
man.
for this one.
Thank you.